Welcome to Grit and Gravitas with Ann and Annie, bringing you savvy, spirited stories of success. We're excited to deliver 30 minutes of inspiration, impact, and goodness. We'll be bringing you guests and friends from around the country who have very special work and personal journeys. I'm Ann Deeter Gallaher, your co-host with Annie Carnathan, and this is Grit and Gravitas. Let's go! Welcome to Grit and Gravitas, episode 3. And now there's our podcast lounge is a little bit more crowded today.
There's 3 of us in episode 3.
Yes.
Our first guest.
Yes. We are super excited. And the minute she starts talking, most people in Pennsylvania will recognize her, and people in Nashville.
It's a voice stamp, Ann, right?
Yes, will recognize her. Nancy Ryan. We are so excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yay, I love that voice.
You know, the most embarrassing thing is when a friend maybe you're over at somebody's house, you're out somewhere, like at the market, and that friend of yours says, "Oh my gosh, do you know Nancy? Do you listen?" They're like, "Nope." You know what I mean? That's the most embarrassing thing. I usually
I don't
walk
have any
away.
friends who say no when I ask them that. Do you know Nancy? You have long been a role model for me.
Oh my gosh.
And in Pennsylvania business, and I've had the very special pleasure to, work alongside you with things, with Ben, especially from Nashville. I've seen you in action, and we're just excited to have you on Grit and Gravitas.
Thank you.
And as you know, our tagline is Savvy, Spirited Stories of Success, Annie. And I think Nancy's full of them.
Well,
instead of full of it,
extraordinarily full of them. And so Nancy just had a life-altering career moment. And when we talk about what we can say to women who maybe are struggling, stuck, don't see coming.
Oh yeah,
what
definitely.
You just didn't see coming.
Right.
And it happened so close to where we are today. It just didn't happen that long ago. And so when someone sees someone of your success, of your tenure, of your just wild popularity, going back in broadcast as long as you. And so we need to hear these stories. And for women to share the story you're going to share with us versus being accomplished, having made it, that doesn't talk anything about the journey.
Right.
The bumps and the scars along the way. So when Ann said, "Hey, how about Nancy for first?" Okay, what could be more perfect? Because of that struggle. And if you can just start with that struggle, because you're still in the really early aftermath of that.
Oh, I really am. It's hard to believe. And it's funny, Annie, that we started working together. That's something that Ann didn't know.
I did not know.
Yeah, at Z107, WRKZ, when I moved up from Charleston, West Virginia.
When you're in it long enough, right?
Yeah.
It all those loops start to close, and you're the reason that our son went to St. Margaret Mary,
right?
Catholic school in Harrisburg, and it profoundly changed our life.
I knew it would.
And for the rest of our lives, will some of the most important relationships we have began and will continue throughout our days there. So with that, again, I just can't appreciate you talking about a massive struggle because no one would know otherwise.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think the hardest part, and it's so funny today, the guy that I worked with, Newman, who is my brother, was our 20th anniversary. Today. Wow. Isn't that crazy? 20 years. Yeah.
That didn't quite make 20 years,
no,
right?
I'm going to get, look at me. I'm going to get stupid upset.
But this is what this show has to be, and no one's going to love you more than Ann and I in the telling, because that's what people need to understand is how you're coping with this.
Right.
And what friends are able to do and what they're not able to do, and how you sit here and the pain on your face is still so raw. And so to be able to sit here and say, "Hey, it might look like I made it easy, but wow, this just happened to me," and you'll never understand it as long as you live.
Right.
Because you never saw it coming.
Yeah.
Well, I think it builds on our episode 2 with Annie. She left us with the challenge to never give up.
Absolutely.
And that sounds trite, and we practice it. You had to institute that immediately.
Yes.
And, for a hot minute, maybe, you talk to your family and you just tried to, feel what the heck just happened.
Right.
But
well, hey, we better tell everybody
Tell
what
us.
that was, because
Okay,
if they don't know, then we're really like, they're going, wait a minute, what is it? This is
Yeah.
not a hook. This is just
the hardest part about being on the radio for so many years in one town is that unless you go on your own terms, which I honestly always thought I would.
no one didn't think you would.
Exactly. And I think, you build a reputation in town. We're tied to money. That's part of revenue is
Right.
the endorsements that we do on the radio. And the reason why it works so well is because we believe in the people that we endorse. Paul Harvey was an old radio guy that I listened to when I was a little girl that my mom and dad would listen to on the radio.
Too.
And I remember him saying, the only thing you have is your credibility. And I always had that because I always made sure I wouldn't talk about somebody that I didn't believe in. And you, as in sales, Annie, you worked with me long enough to know that. So yeah, so you march along, you think, Newman and I've been working together on Bob 94.9 for 20 years together. I was there 5 years before that.
I remember when you got together.
Yeah.
Right.
They threw him in like a puppy
yeah,
dog. And
yeah.
I was like, what is this? Honestly,
I hope he's
what is
listening.
this?
No, you don't do that on the carpet here. You go outside to do
Come
that.
on, young man.
Come
This is the way it
on.
works around here. And I honestly thought, he always had these big aspirations. He wanted to be in Philly. He'd been in California and realized that he was going to have to work at a T-shirt kiosk to be able to make a
Wow.
living, and had a wife and a little son. But he came here to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I really spent the first few years saying, if you just work hard enough and you stick with me, we're going to be fine.
Totally
Wow.
took him under your
Wow.
wing.
Yeah, I really
totally
did.
took him
Yeah.
under your wing. For
And
sure.
He's one of the most honest people I've ever met. His word is gold, and I feel really bad he got left there.
Isn't this a woman, right? We're talking about her extraordinary event, and she immediately goes to talking about Newman. Isn't that a woman?
Yeah.
Like, we're always so selfless. Everyone else comes first. We have to make sure everyone is all right.
Right.
We're nurturers.
I know.
Right?
I know.
We sort of make people come together in peaceful harmony, or we hope.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just extraordinary that we say, talk about what happened, and she talks about her partner.
Yeah. Well,
Amazing.
okay. Yes. But I will tell you that when you get kicked to the curb and it was unceremonious, it was really, really tough. But the good thing is, because we've always shared our lives on the radio, and I think that helped a lot of people as well. When Newman would come in, I'll use him one more time, but he would come in and he'd think, nobody appreciates anything. I'm working my tail off and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And we're all doing that. But he just didn't think anybody appreciated it. And then I run into a mom at the playground to pick my daughter up. And she says, my mom's been going through cancer and you guys have helped me every day by putting a smile on my face. When those are the kind of things that you forget about, that I would not let him forget about. So
When you think about the part you are to someone's waking hours.
Oh, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And
We're there every morning.
that's exactly right. And the transference of that relationship and the bond to what is largely a nameless and faceless crowd
Right.
is really where the magic happens. And you are either authentic and you sort of reach out from the radio and grab them and say, I want you to feel like you're having coffee with us.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so experiential in terms of your own life and what it looks like for you to be a human being and get up in the middle of the night. And so there's that. I think people underestimate that transference to still what is the biggest advocacy of terrestrial radio.
Right.
And so when you start to say they can't matter, you're starting to sort of cut the last ties to me
Right.
of why terrestrial radio is still one of the most special and magical parts.
Oh, I know. And I really hope, I'm afraid with the way things are going, there are a lot of big syndicated shows. And, at first it was Howard Stern and guys like Don Imus and those big guys that lived in New York City. They were never coming to Harrisburg. I think one of the most special things about our area, about central Pennsylvania, is the listeners, the viewers, TV, they appreciate their local anchors.
Oh,
They
my
appreciate
word,
their
yes.
radio people because every year for, oh my gosh, 20 years. It's been over 20 years now that I'm thinking about it, doing the math, that I've hosted this UCP's Magic Night, United Cerebral Palsy, and met some amazing people, amazing children, like those kind of things, raising millions and millions and millions of dollars for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And yeah, it's a hospital down in Memphis, but there are local kids. Right. Our intern, Corey Somerville, was a St. Jude kid when he was 4. And he ended up being our intern at the radio station. You were there when he was there, right? Mm-hmm. He was an amazing young man.
100%. And I when life threw you, not even a curveball, it was high and hard. I mean, it was like a fastball right at your head. Mm-hmm. What do you do when you wake up the next day? You're still a mom. Mm-hmm. You're still a wife.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You have enormous relationships with many, many of the people.
Yeah.
That now sort of you're not officially
They didn't know what happened. A lot of people didn't know what happened. And I will say, for all of the negative, bad things about social media, there are really wonderful things. Like you stay in touch with people. That's our only way to stay in touch.
You have a whole community, and they wanted to know.
Yeah.
At first, how can we help you? How can we support you?
Right.
Where are you going next? What business are you going to start? Because we want to be there for you.
Right.
And I really feel, I've been at many of your events. It is like a family.
We've done some crazy trick-or-treating, haven't we, in Camp Hill, right down the street from your office.
Yes.
Yeah, but it really is all about, oh my gosh, we used to do a segment called the Weather Kid of the Day. And to have weather kids from years and years, that I remember I was at Community Aid one day. I was just in there doing, looking around. And a young man walked up to me and said, "Oh, hi, my name is Matt, and I was your weather kid, and I would like you to meet my son." And he was, just a baby. Yeah.
They grow up and we grow old.
I know.
That's the way that works.
And I don't feel any different, And it's just, that says a lot, especially because radio people were always the faceless people. It was always the TV people in town that got that. And I always kind of felt for them because they could never just go and be themselves because people were always looking at them,
So what was the most important coping mechanism, Nancy, when after this long success, unbridled joy in what you did, which you can't manufacture.
No.
So what do you think was one of the primary coping mechanisms? Because the whole host of things you were feeling just assaulted you.
Yeah, right.
Because if you've ever had that life-changing moment where you just feel assaulted by every single emotion,
right,
just coursing through you, like almost the antithesis of adrenaline. Mm-hmm. What do you look back and say to women that the sun will come up?
Oh, yeah.
And what do you think you drew on, if you will, the most to cope with that?
I had hope that it's going to be better.
Great.
Yeah.
A huge infrastructure in your family.
Oh, my gosh. And I had confidence. I will say I didn't spend all these years here to think I was going to be nothing. And by nothing, I don't...
But it was over,
right,
quote unquote,
right. I mean, I remember my daughter, who's 19 right now, saying, Mom, just hang on for a few more years. This is before I got let go. Hang on for a few more years, because when I turn 21, we're hitting Nashville, And I'm like, and I said to her, so that was one of the first things I thought of. I'm like, honey, we can still hit Nashville. I still know a lot of people. We're going to walk down Lower Broadway, and we're going to walk into John Rich's, Redneck Riviera. And we're going to do a shot with John, or maybe we'll see Blake Shelton, or, it's really interesting when you know everybody on the radio. That's crazy, in country radio, because country music artists are the most wonderful artists,
Authentic.
They are so authentic. And once they know you, they might not remember your name, but Newman and Nancy, or Nancy and Newman they would see us coming. They're like, "Oh no, oh Lord, I remember the last time we were with you guys," or "I remember the first time I was with you guys," but we love every one of them. When Luke Bryan played up at the Winter Circle Saloon,
oh my word,
he had a song called "Rain Is a Good Thing," and he said, "I think this is gonna be my hit." And he started playing, and we're like, "Oh my gosh!" My daughter was in the ladies' room with Kimberly and Karen from Little Big Town, up at the Winter Circle Saloon. and they were just laughing and carrying on, and they're in the stalls
They're
changing.
two people.
They're just two people. I mean, these big artists. I mean, Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani. I mean, Blake Shelton gets up and smacks himself every day and says, I can't believe she's with me. Like, one day she's going to wake up and say, what?
Isn't that great that love is love?
Yeah.
Right? In whatever capacity. And I think when you think one thing, life is what happens while you're making other plans.
Yeah.
And just sort of upend you.
Right.
And I think, what's interesting about that. So I'm the sales part of broadcast. Definitely nobody knew me. And I think it was the exact opposite of leaving that. So I think the opportunities dried up. I'm halfway through my career. I'm not willing to stay in this position. But when I left, I think the exact opposite happened.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I had authentic relationships in the building. And no, you're the top salesperson who can do a lot for me. And so now that's not you, right? We call that managing to the chair. Brutal awakening for me. Really sad in a lot of ways, right? That when people aren't who you think they are, but conversely, people were exactly who you thought they were.
So far, yes, so far. I mean, I had a lot of wonderful clients that I had worked with they had my cell phone number because I had a relationship with them. It wasn't just Annie Carnathan saying, do a commercial for whoever.
Right.
They text me. The word gets around pretty quickly in a small town.
It's interesting, and I know this because you made a lot of sacrifices for your career. So when you're on the radio and I'm listening to you in the car and I'm dropping our son off at school and your husband's dropping your daughter off, guess what? We're all listening to you in two separate cars. Well, that's a sacrifice, right?
Right.
Because you're not with your daughter. And women make those sacrifices.
Yeah, I missed every day of that growing up with her.
It's exactly right. And I say to women, at some point the bill is going to come due. And you're going to be sitting there and saying, okay, that's all over now. And were the sacrifices worth it? Right?
I was lucky that the sacrifices were worth it, or I was okay with it because I had a great husband
I
work with some women that they're single moms, and every day I don't know how they do it. They're dealing with, is a nanny going to show up at 3:30 in the morning so she can leave because the children are too young,
Will she be healthy?
Exactly.
Will she be upset?
Exactly.
Will she be a little rattled about her own life? And that, and that dependency. And I think, and it was Abraham, and I'm like, wow, what a sacrifice. Cause like she's here in my radio, but she's not there. And so that impacts the sacrifices women make.
Right.
And so then when someone makes it a lifetime decision for you, and you're like, wait a minute, don't you know what I've sacrificed?
Yeah. It was a kick. So I will say that I'm certainly not giving up. I'm a very positive person. And I had enough of those client endorsement people that I talked about that I loved that have reached out to me and said, we want you to work with us, so you'll probably, and it's funny because you're like, oh, once you're in your 50s, you think, so now you want me to do a TV commercial for you. So now you want me to do these videos, you know what I'm saying?
100%.
Hello. Right. So, but it's such a great feeling. So I don't have any negativity. And I've actually liked the fact that every day sort of felt like Saturday to me right now, because I am home. And my daughter is at home right now from Penn State, not up at State campus, main campus.
Silver lining, right?
Yeah, it's a real silver lining. Yeah, and she's just such a wonderful young woman. And,
she is.
But I do feel like I'm, the puppy dog sitting waiting for her to come out of her room. So what do you want today?
I think
Pancakes?
you're a great example of grit, and that's part of our focus here.
Yeah.
The pandemic has done this and more to so many people.
Yeah.
Not only in Pennsylvania, all around the world. But I think what's really special is that other women are saying, oh my word, this happened to Nancy too. And now I hear her here, and now I see her here, and now she's on this amazing podcast.
Oh, absolutely. That you two called me and asked me to be part of,
But
go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say those stories are so meaningful because it gives them, you have hope, and maybe that comes naturally. Not everybody is willing to wake up with that mindset, and I think they need to hear those powerful stories and say, wow, I do see a path now. I heard Nancy's experience. I had no idea that she got back up on her feet so quickly, and these are the skills that she used, and these are the people that supported her, and I have those same people in my life.
And I would also say that people want to be around people that are positive.
Amen.
Positive.
It's a mindset, and it's contagious.
It is.
It's
And
contagious.
if you have a positive outlook, then people want you to be around them, and you have something to offer them, And it's so funny, Anne Gallaher, after knowing you for all these years, that I had never read Women in High Gear. I knew all about In High Gear, and I got through a number of chapters. I didn't know what C-suite was, And when you said C-suite, it means
corner CEO, chief executive office, the corner suite,
the top, the top dog. But you and Amy, the co-authors of this Women in High Gear, it right now it's so relevant right now. The working from home part of it.
Yes.
And I thought this was 8 years ago that this book came out.
Yes.
And I went on Amazon and ordered that one, and the Students in High Gear, which I brought today for you to
Give it to
autograph for me.
Nancy.
But my gosh, just taking the time to read something. I was always reading show prep,
scripts, or you're
getting ready for something.
Yeah.
I never took the time to just sit by the fire in a nice chair and read, and I did it. And I haven't finished it yet, and I want to read the student ones as well.
Charlie Tremendous Jones, God rest his soul.
Yes,
his daughter is phenomenal, superpower, Tracy. But he said, you're going to be the same person in 5 years, except for two things: the people you meet and the books you read.
Yes.
And Anne and I are both voracious readers, and if I said I'm not worthy to sit across from her as an author, I mean, it's by my bedstand, so I don't know what that says about me or about the book. But at the end of the day, and Anne said this in our first episode, it's a connection economy, and there can't be a woman with compassion of any kind that doesn't, even if they don't know who you are, what you're about, and say to Anne Gallaher, I know you're besties with her. Is there anything I can do? What does she need? And the most I'll ever say is my Tigger tail isn't bouncing as high today, which means I'm just having a high building character day. But really, it's sort of you brave or you acting brave. And what you have to do, Nancy, is you just have to get back out there. But I think you're going to get back out there to what has since transpired with an enormous amount of people wanting to help you. They just don't know what that is, right?
It's been amazing. And I will say, because I know very dynamic women, and I know very dynamic people in East Central Pennsylvania.
Right.
But the dynamic women that have called me, the dynamic women, and two of them are sitting right here. Anne and Annie are sitting right here with me. But I think it shocked me, but didn't, You're
not reflecting on it for any reason otherwise, right? You don't take that time to reflect because you're in it. You're not thinking this could ever happen to you.
No, never. And, radio has always been a man's world. When I first started, in Charleston, West Virginia, where I grew up, my senior year of high school, they let me do the overnight shift back when they used to have overnight shifts on terrestrial radio. But they told me, if you don't graduate from high school and keep continuing on, we're not going to let you work here. So I worked the all-night shift and got off the air at 6 a.m. and went into school.
Oh, my word.
My senior year, yeah.
Oh, my word.
And I did it. And I didn't go to my prom. A lot of things like that. Like you sacrifice a lot. I know.
100% of your career. We don't care small, large. It's all relative.
Oh yeah.
Contextually.
Right.
And when we look back, there's little rungs on the ladder. And think about it. You're a wife. You're a mom. Two exceptionally important things to you. There's your faith. There's tithing. There's giving back. And I think you vote with your time. Right.
Absolutely.
That's the great equalizer, because we all have the exact same amount
non-renewable.
of that. Yeah, and you can talk something or you can do it. People can say, "Oh, I blah blah blah." No, I see how you're spending your time and where you're spending that. And guess what? That's up to you.
Right.
Right? So it's not poor me. Like you're
Right.
choosing to do that, and I'll support you no matter what, right? And it's interesting because Anne will say, "Well, you got to be on a board. You got to do this, you got to do that." Right? I go, "No. I write checks." Right? Because people forget. So Anne has grandbabies and I have a 16-year-old son.
Right.
We're at completely almost opposite life points at that. And I'm not willing to go to a board meeting and not be with my son right now.
And honestly, yes, I will say to you, that's so interesting that you say that, Annie, because in the last year, and it was funny that it started it started in 2019, and it was that I had missed 2 of my daughter's proms because I had board retreats that weekend, and I would sneak out for a couple minutes, run over to wherever. And in that last year of 2020, I said, I'm not missing a prom. I'm not missing I'm not missing any of that stuff. I did not go to Nashville in 2020, and like all these things. Of course, then the pandemic hit, and she didn't have a real prom anyway. But I changed my priorities, and I'm really glad I did.
I've never missed a single meaningful thing, and I don't know what that's cost me. I can't prove a negative.
It hasn't cost you a single thing,
right?
It hasn't.
And now now he's driving to school, and that's at least. It's 3 days a week, and you think, oh my God, how has anybody ever learned this, right? It's like this 2,000-pound missile or whatever. But I think to myself, like, these are shrinking. Like in April, I'll have his license, and then all of a sudden, an entire school existence of taking him to school and picking him up for the most part.
I loved picking her up.
Over.
I picked her up,
right?
every day.
And this day, and he's still one of the most interesting people in the world. If you ask me who I wanted to spend my time with, right? And Nancy, to have that, and it's this whole Ann and I talk about, can women have it all? I mean, no. We're sacrificing something for the other because the time is finite.
Absolutely.
It's the exact same amount of time. And I'll say to Ann, so for right now, I'm good writing checks. I'm just pretty good at doing that.
We need you to do that.
Yeah, right. No, and when I'm ready then to give that part of myself to someone else, I'm going to do that. Right. And so I think people just forget where we are in that life cycle because I had him so late.
Mm-hmm. And Me too. I mean, that's where we are at those different ends. I mean, I certainly could have been a grandma by now if I'd started so young, but I was busy.
Well, and that's the thing. You were upended not in your 30s. Right. Where you think I have time to sort of whatever time means, right?
Right.
But this happened this late, a life moment this late, and now what, right?
Right.
And we have talked about this. There's tremendous opportunity for mid-careerists, for you to find new high gears. We've talked about what that path looks like, and you might never have thought about it before. Mm-hmm. And my whole book, the premise of starting my business at age 40, that's not really a typical, you just don't go to the bank and say, hey, here I am, I need a commercial loan. I'm 40 and first time in entrepreneurship. But I even feel in the pandemic, this has just leveled the playing field. Mm-hmm. And now the wisdom, for lack of a sweeter term, that we bring to the table here, 20 years of work experience, things, and you can bring that to make even better decisions than you would have made when you're 30.
Oh,
had this
definitely.
happen.
Yeah, no, I've calmed down a lot.
Plus, people. You have an entire. I know country artists.
Mm-hmm.
Country artists have reached out to you. Texted you and say, "Hey, we're here for you. Whatever the future might look like."
It's a good feeling. When you respect people, then you're going to get it back. Yes. So
we talked about in our very first episode, and we like to leave like a business vitamin for people. So we talked about today is the day, and just waking up and no more procrastination, no more lofty goals. Let's take our first step toward what the future. So you probably have a lot of today is the days. Mm-hmm. With Annie, episode 2, really was call to arms for never give up.
Right.
And we say that, but we're here to support each other. Do not give up. If Milton Hershey gave up after he thought he was going to fail, we wouldn't have those amazing Hershey Kisses.
3 bankruptcies.
Yeah,
exactly.
And a very like faithful aunt who
right.
had some cake to invest. But I have a really wild idea, Anne. And I look at when the world's back to normal, so we have partners coast to coast, and I travel a lot.
Yes.
So I would just submit we should all consider, as Nancy's thinking about her what's next, that she should be me when I'm not able to make our
I vote.
podcast recording session.
Does that mean I
Yes.
have to be the loud one?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do it. I can do it.
Loud is loud.
but you know,
We would love that. So
Thank
Nancy,
you.
we're going to put you down, and actually Monica
Absolutely.
probably has that on the socials channels as we speak here. That you would very graciously be our co-host for Grit and Gravitas when
Ann and
Annie's
Annie with
traveling.
Nancy Ryan, right?
Yes.
I love the ring of that.
Anna's my middle name.
Oh.
With or without an
See?
E? With or without an E?
With an E.
I guess it has to be like you have to have
You're
an
like
Ann and
that-
an E somehow,
That-
some way.
It's not a common anymore.
It's
not
the
a common.
Saint Anne, and I'll show you that
Okay, good.
stained glass window in church. It's Saint Anne right there with the E.
So our final question is, asking guests, and of course you're the first guest that we're having. What is one piece of high gear advice you would tell listeners, viewers, because this is video as well, to help them today going forward?
Show up every day. Show up
Good.
every day and give it your best.
Good.
My dad always said, be the first one in, the last one out. I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but work hard and be honest.
Always
Yeah.
be awesome.
Yeah, always be awesome. I love that.
Great. Well, we are super excited to have you
Thank
in the
you.
Grit and Gravitas studio in Camp Hill,
Shouldn't
Pennsylvania.
be this fun, should it? It just
Yes,
should
it should be.
Should
It
it?
absolutely should
Because
always
it really
be this
doesn't
fun.
feel like work. It just feels like so
Exactly.
great, right?
That's how
I
I built my
know.
career.
Exactly.
Have fun.
There you go.
So I know
That's
we have
in
a
there.
lot more stories of spirited success to come. So we're excited to reveal those to our friends and friends we haven't met yet. So
Get everybody to listen, y'all. Come on, girlfriends.
There's
Get
that
everybody to care
There's that
about
country
this, so
girl
that-
in there.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
This
Annie
is
my
me.
and
ass, right?
Nancy.
There's a salesman asking for the business. Come on, girls. Get people sticky to this.
Yes, and have a high gear day.
There you go. Thanks, ladies.
Thanks for listening. It's our desire that these stories will bring energy, ideas, and fresh thinking that you can use today. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram, and have a high gear day.